stomach twisted. Hands began to shake. Was any of this real? Had she even escaped? What if she was still trapped somewhere, drugged and sleeping? She was on the verge of breaking down, turning around and asking the newspaper boy where she was, what year it was, and whether she was dreaming. But as she desperately searched around for something to calm her panicked questions, the answer hit her in the form of a building across the street, or rather its sign, which said, New York City Postal Office. As unbelievable as that was, it did solve some mysteries. Why an advertisement said an elixir was the best in America. Why the boy was shouting news about a factory fire in San Francisco. Why she felt so lost. Somehow, she'd been transported across the Atlantic without noticing. How many days had she been asleep? It didn't explain what had happened to her. But when she saw the signs advertising trans-American and worldwide telegraph services, nothing mattered more than getting home. England. Home. She hurried across the street toward the postal office. She didn't have any money, but she might beg the operator to send the shortest message to her family. Then she could go to the police, safe in their presence, until her family arrived. A giddy smile overtook her face as she thought about her sister, who would surely find her way here without even waiting for their parents. As she opened the door to the postal office and heard a voice she'd hoped she'd never hear again, her stomach dropped. Tisk, tisk. You know you can't be wandering around like this. What if they found you? He scolded. She had been so close. She'd tried to run, but her first step didn't even reach the ground. A wail left her throat as a crackle rent the air. Her stomach lurched, and the floor opened up, swallowing her whole. Chapter 1. February, 1883. Belgium. This was a terrible plan. Evelyn, it's your plan. Yes, but you've escaped from far more asylums than I have. Why wouldn't we choose your plan? Because yours was better. There's no need to worry yet. He hasn't even been inside for more than 5 minutes. Miss Grey was right, but her reassurances didn't make me feel any less responsible for Oliver Miles, our slippery new friend. Since he was the only one with a useful power for a secretive rescue, we'd saddled him with every difficult task. He had to memorize Miss Grey's complicated map of the asylum, which was somewhat vague, being from memory, steal the keys from a nurse, find Emily Kane's quarters, and sneak her out a side door, where we'd be waiting, doing absolutely nothing to help. If his powers failed him, he could easily get caught by a guard, get stuck in a locked room, or fall through the floor toward the center of the earth, and we wouldn't be any the wiser. I hated feeling this useless. I hated feeling the weight of this plan on my shoulders. A shiver escaped me, along with a long-held breath, its white mist barely visible in the faint light of our covered lantern. The night sat cold and silent. There was nothing else around us for miles except the oppressive blackness of rolling hills and woods. I pulled my wool cloak tighter around my shoulders and tried to imagine where in the building Oliver would be at the moment. He should have reached Emily by now, sliding through walls as easily as I stepped through a threshold. Perhaps I could convince Miss Grey to take a quick nap, check his progress in her dream, and assuage my... Oliver's head burst through the wall. I jumped, still not quite used to his head popping out of things heads shouldn't pop out of. The rest of his body followed, and he gave us a disgruntled look. "What happened?" Miss Grey whispered, uncovering the lantern slightly. "Did you find Emily?" "I did," Oliver said, "but she wouldn't come." "Did you tell her my name? Did you remind her about the dreams?" Miss Grey asked. "I tried to. She wouldn't listen to me, and when I kept trying, she said she would scream." Miss Grey let out a sigh. Over the last few days she had tried to prepare Emily for this escape by entering her dreams and calming her fears. But this seemed to be just like the last time Miss Grey was here, when she had escaped the asylum herself. Emily had refused to come, and Miss Grey had had no choice but to leave her behind. Judging from the dark look on my former governess's face, she was not going to let that happen again. "I'll have to speak with her," Miss Grey said. "How many nurses have you seen in the corridor?"